There's a train that runs only once a year, on the eve of All Hallows, from a station that's not supposed to exist. Hallow's End Station. A place whispered about by conductors and old railway workers, always with a nervous laugh that hides something darker. They say the train doesn't follow any schedule, and that its passengers never seem to return. Tonight, the story's about a woman named Clara. She was a skeptic, the kind of person who scoffed at ghost stories and urban legends. She worked as a journalist, chasing truth and exposing lies, and her latest assignment had brought her to a sleepy little town where Hallow's End Station was said to appear. Clara arrived late in the evening, her bag slung over one shoulder and a notebook clutched tightly in her hand. The town was eerily quiet, its cobblestone streets shrouded in fog. She asked the locals about the station, but they only shook their heads, muttering about curses and warning her to stay away. Of course, Clara didn't listen. As midnight approached, she found herself standing at the edge of a forgotten railway, the moon casting a ghostly glow on the rusted tracks. The air was thick and heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. Then, in the distance, she heard it. A faint whistle, mournful and low, growing louder with every passing second. The train emerged from the fog, its black engine gleaming like polished obsidian. It slowed as it approached the station, steam hissing and wheels screeching to a halt. The door slid open, revealing a warm, golden light inside. Clara hesitated, her heart pounding. But this was the story she'd come for, and she wasn't about to turn back now. She stepped aboard. The interior of the train was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Velvet seats, crystal chandeliers, and intricate wood paneling gave it the air of an old-world luxury liner. Yet there was something off about it, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. The other passengers were strangely silent, their faces hidden behind wide-brimmed hats or veils. Clara sat near the back, pulling out her notebook to jot down every detail. She noticed a man across the aisle, his suit impeccably tailored, but his eyes hollow, like they were looking through her rather than at her. At first, everything seemed normal. But as the train picked up speed, the scenery outside the window began to change. The rolling hills and distant towns melted away, replaced by something else entirely. The world beyond the glass was dark and formless, a void that seemed to stretch on forever. Clara felt a chill crawl up her spine. She turned to the other passengers, but none of them seemed to notice. They sat rigidly in their seats, staring straight ahead, as if in a trance. Clara felt a chill crawl up her spine. She turned to the other passengers, but none of them seemed to notice. They sat rigidly in their seats, staring straight ahead, as if in a trance. Then came the whispers. Soft at first, like the rustling of leaves, but growing louder and more distinct. They came from nowhere and everywhere, voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. Clara couldn't make out the words, but she felt their weight, like icy fingers pressing against her skull. "What is this place?" she muttered, her breath fogging in the cold air. A woman sitting across from her finally spoke, her voice barely audible over the whispers. "You shouldn't have boarded this train." Clara leaned forward, desperate for answers. "What do you mean? Where is this train going?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she stood and moved toward the door at the end of the car, disappearing into the next compartment. Clara followed, her pulse racing. The next car was darker, its chandeliers flickering as if struggling to stay lit. The air smelled of damp earth and something metallic. Clara saw the woman standing at the far end, her back to her. But when she called out, the woman didn't turn. She took a step closer, and then another. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening now, and the air seemed to vibrate with an unseen energy. Just as Clara reached out to touch the woman's shoulder, she turned. Her face was wrong. The features were there, eyes, nose, mouth, but they were blurred, as if smeared by an invisible hand. The woman's mouth moved, but her words were drowned out by the cacophony of whispers. Clara stumbled back, her mind reeling. She fled to the next car, and then the next, each one more warped than the last. The luxurious interiors gave way to rusted metal and peeling paint, the once golden light dimming to a sickly green. The passengers, they were no longer human, their forms twisted and contorted, their hollow eyes watching her as she passed. Finally, Clara reached the engine room. The conductor stood there, his back to her, clad in a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat. "Stop the train!" she demanded, her voice cracking. "Let me off!" The conductor turned slowly, revealing a face made entirely of shadows. "This train doesn't stop," he said, his voice a rumble that seemed to come from the very walls of the car. "Not until it reaches its destination." Clara's knees buckled as the train began to shake violently. The whispers reached a crescendo, and the world outside the windows burst into flames. The void replaced by a hellish landscape of fire and ash. When Clara awoke, she was lying on the cold, hard ground. The train was gone, the tracks rusted and broken. Her notebook was clutched in her hand, its pages blank except for one line scrawled in jagged, unfamiliar handwriting. There it is written, "You can't outrun the journey." He returned to the town, but no one believed her story. The locals only shook their heads and muttered about how no one ever comes back the same from Hallow's End. Clara left shortly after, the memory of that night haunting her dreams. And every year, on the eve of All Hallows, she hears the distant whistle of a train that should exist, calling her back to the journey she narrowly escaped. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed this eerie tale, don't forget to leave a like, and if you crave more chilling narratives, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Until next time.